The term myth refers to stories that provide an explanation for things that people don't understand.
Usually they sound pretty logical, and it can be very hard to determine what's true and what's false.
There's a lot of energy-saving myths, and chances are you believe in some of them.
We're busting myths today on PowerHouse.
PowerHouse, presented by Alliant Energy.
Alliant Energy, we're on for you.
Megan, did you know that solar panels don't generate a lot of energy on a cloudy day?
Really? That can't be true.
You're right. It isn't. It's a common energy myth. Solar panels generate energy no matter how many clouds in the sky.
And that's because the panels don't require light intensity to generate electricity. They generate power with any type of light.
And that's just one example of an energy-saving myth.
Today we're going to break down some of the more common myths and show you the science behind it.
Plus, we might end up saving you some energy.
Let's get started. There are a lot of myths surrounding insulation, so it's important to first understand what insulation is and then why you need it.
We have a large container of ice water, and it's very cold. And I have rubber gloves on, and I'm going to stick my hand into the water.
Pete drew the short straw on this task.
And it's very cold. It's cold.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah.
Okay, we've made the
cold.
point.
Yeah. All right, I have some shortening here, and I'm going to coat my hand here with the shortening. Megan's going to help kind of get it all over here. Now, I'm going to stick it back in the ice water.
There you go. If you try this at home, make sure that you do have a glove on or a plastic bag or something like that, because the shortening can be really slimy and kind of gross.
Now, we did a pretty good job of covering my hand up, and there didn't get all completely covered, but it really isn't that bad. Because, you know, the shortening is acting like insulation and keeping the warmth in my hand and the cold of the ice out.
That's exactly why polar bears and other animals that live in the Arctic can swim in this kind of water. They have layers of fat to insulate them. And that's also why we insulate our homes. We want to keep the temperature in our homes consistent no matter what it's like outside. So what are the myths about insulating? Myth number 1, you shouldn't make a home too tight. Myth number 2, insulating the ceiling will just cause more air to leak out through the walls and windows. We're here at Kirkwood Community College today, and joining us is Joe Greathouse, Associate Professor of Construction Management. And some of your students will be joining us as well a little bit later. Thank you so much for having us here and helping us bust these myths.
You bet.
Let's start with the first one. Is it true that you can have a house that is actually too tight?
Common myth, but that's not true. We actually want houses to be as tight as possible. And one of the mechanisms that we use to help ensure that a house is tight but ventilated right is this machine right behind you. And this is called a heat recovery ventilator, otherwise known as an HRV. And its job is to bring in fresh air from the outside, exhaust the stale air from inside, but capture that heat as it does so. So if we look at this center box here, this is our heat exchanger. So as that cold air, if this is a winter day of 0-degree air outside, the cold air will come in, we will exhaust the 70-degree air that we've heated here, and they will cross paths inside this heat exchanger. They won't mix, so we don't mix the two air masses. We just pull the temperature from the 70-degree air onto the intake fresh air. So as that air comes across this is about 70% efficient. So the air coming in is approximately 50 degrees.
Okay. Now, the second question that I have is, let's say that I insulate a certain part of my house. Is it true that it makes another part weaker and therefore I actually lose energy?
It's a tough question. It depends upon the type of insulation material, but overall the answer is no. We do have a few samples here that we can go through that might help explain those different types of materials. So the first and most expensive, I mean, if money wasn't an object, you would probably use what's called a polyisocyanurate. In the field we call that polyiso. It has a foam core to it with a backing on the front and back, which is approximately an R5.5 per inch. So a 2-inch board like this would be an R11. Moving down the list, we go to an XPS, extruded polystyrene. This is an R5 per inch, so a 2-inch board would yield us an R10. Does a great job air sealing, as well as this next product, which is a foam, sprayed foam application. This is an open cell, kind of a squishy feel to it, whereas this is a closed cell. And depending upon where you're applying this product within the house depends upon which one you would choose. Next item would be an EPS, so this is expanded polystyrene, and this is an R3.5 per inch.
Okay, so now we're going from most expensive down to
Yep.
the least expensive. This is something that looks very familiar to all
Very
of us.
familiar, yep. So this is your fiberglass bat insulation. Comes in different widths. Is approximately an R3 per inch. Most homeowners feel like this is something they can accomplish. Very tricky though to make sure that it's installed properly. And the other disadvantage to this material is it does not provide an air barrier.
Let's go over and meet with Tracy Grecian, who is one of your students.
Hello, Megan.
Hi, Tracy. How are you today?
I'm doing well.
Good. Explain to me what your fellow students are doing in the background here.
We've got Nate and Miranda working on a mock-up wall section, and they're installing fiberglass bat insulation. Fairly simple process, but we want to make sure when installing the fiberglass bats that we don't compress them, but we do fill up the wall cavities.
Now, this does not have an air barrier. Will you apply that afterward?
To achieve an air barrier on this, we're going to use a 6 mil poly. The fiberglass bats themselves, as Joe said, do not create an air barrier.
Okay. I noticed that all the students are wearing the appropriate gear today.
Yep. When working with fiberglass bats, we want to make sure that we've got proper gloves, we've got a breathing mask, and we have eye protection as well.
Great. Thanks. These are great tips.
Thank you.
Okay, and lastly, let's talk about the investment. We've geared up some people here that are excited about insulation. Where do they begin?
Homeowners should investigate their envelope, the outer portion of their house, and look for ways that air movement might be getting into the house, uncontrolled air movement, which could be through wall cavities, cracks in the foundation, that type of thing. So the first thing to do is seal that up tight. After that, then I would recommend starting with attic insulation. Make sure you have the appropriate amount there. Typically, we're in the Midwest in R50, give or take. And then after that, the next common area of efficiency progress would be rim joist, where it meets the exterior band joists of the house. So it's, if you're down in the basement, you look up where your floor joists are, that cavity right there where the floor joist meets the exterior framing.
Great. And so anything that people can do is going to help them. It doesn't have to be all in one shot. They can take their time and slowly make the investment.
Absolutely right.
Thank you so much, Joe.
You bet.
For more information on insulation, you can go to our website at powerhousetv.com.
When you're looking for ways to save energy around your home, windows often rise to the top as a way to improve your home and stop air leaks.
There are many myths about energy loss concerning windows. So first, we need to understand why people assume that windows are a major source of energy loss.
To do that, we've constructed this model house out of foam. The foam works like insulation inside the walls of your home.
And we've also constructed a little mini window here with it's a double pane out of cellophane with tin foil and cardboard as its base. And I'm going to tuck that right in here as well.
Now, we have this candle here, and that's going to act as our heat lamp, our furnace in our home. Now we're going to take a look through a thermal camera to take a look and see what we have.
You can see the brighter colors where the heat may be escaping through and around the windows and walls, especially around the window there.
It's easy to guess that many of the myths for windows have to do with the window being an area that causes significant heat loss.
Let's take a look at some of those myths. Myth number 3, replacing old windows with new energy-saving varieties is the best way to see quick energy savings. Myth number 4, covering old windows in plastic is the only way to stop leaking windows.
Our construction expert, Joe Greathouse, is back with us again to explain why these myths are wrong. And Joe, let's start with the first one. It's fine to replace windows, but these aren't the only way to save energy, right?
Exactly right. Like we talked in the first segment about insulation and air sealing. Those are the first two things that you should do. Certainly windows would be a close third, but please stay in that order, making sure airtight, insulation, then look at windows.
And there's substantial savings we can get through replacing our windows, right? And you've got a couple examples to talk about here.
Absolutely, especially with older windows that might be single pane glass, very inefficient. So let's start with this one here though. You can see that there's 2 panes of glass in this window called a double pane. And in between those 2 panes of glass is a sealed air chamber. And that air chamber has argon gas inside it. Argon gas is certainly a better insulator than natural air, as well as has the ability to keep moisture out. In addition to the glass that you see, there's a coating on the exterior side of that glass called a low emissivity spray. And basically, emissivity is the amount of reflection off of the glass that keeps the solar gain out of the home. If we go to this model here, this is definitely a higher end model. You can see it's got 3 sheets of glass, 2 insulating panels in it. Same philosophy as that there. Also would have the low E coating on the outside.
Now again, some terrific windows, and I know you've got a mock-up here, Joe.
Yep.
And it's great to get a terrific new window, but a second myth, okay, if I have an old window, I can just put up a plastic sheet and that can take care of it, but we've got to be concerned about the seal, right?
That's right. So this mock-up here shows what a new construction as well as a remodel type application might look like for a window installation. And so you can see the wood structure around it is built such that it is bigger all the way around than the window itself, because we want to isolate the structure from the actual window. And that gap that surrounds it all the way around needs to be taken care of in terms of air sealing and thermal. So a good product for that might be a foam or a caulking for there.
Well, again, and that gets to the point about making sure, we can all go out and check our windows in terms of the seals, the caulking, to make sure that we aren't allowing that air to go through. Might have a great window, but it doesn't do us any good if we got a bad seal.
You're exactly right. Yep.
And talk a little bit about, we all know about R value, but you were saying about U value on windows.
So windows are a little bit different. They're not given to the consumer in an R value. Instead, they're given to in a U value. And the U value for this particular window is a 0.31. And how you translate that into R values, divide that into 1. So 1 over 0.31 would yield approximately an R 3.5 for this window. Now we compare that to the fiberglass insulation that we have below, which in a 2x4 wall assembly like this, we might see an R13. So this wall is almost 4 times as efficient in terms of keeping it thermally controlled than say a window is. So again, focusing on insulation, air movement, that's number 1 and number 2, followed closely by window efficiencies.
And again, that goes back to what we talked about, the small investment that a homeowner might make in terms of caulk, some sealant around, and their time, but it's well worth it.
Oh, absolutely is. Yep.
Joe, a lot of great information, and if you'd like more information about making your windows more energy efficient, go to our website at powerhousetv.com.
Everyone loves a cozy fireplace. The beauty of burning logs, real or fake, can add style to any home.
Now, how many of you think a fireplace is better at heating a room in the wintertime than a furnace?
To answer that question, we need to understand how air moves through a home when there's a heat source inside the home, like a fireplace.
To do that, we'll use this. It's called a convection box. It has a clear front, so you can see how the air moves during our experiment.
Now, we have lit a candle inside below this tube over here to simulate our fireplace. And right now it's actually warming the air inside the box.
Now we're going to introduce some smoke so you can see how the air is moving inside our little makeshift house.
There you go. And as we add the smoke to the opposite chimney over here, you'll see how it starts to get pulled down into the box. The cool air is flowing downward because the warmer air is moving out of the box through the other chimney, as you can see on Pete's side here, creating a lower pressure inside the box.
Now as we watch, the cooler air heats up inside our convection box, and we'll notice that again that smoke begins to flow out of the heated chimney. A typical wood-burning fireplace will actually pull heated air out of your home as it convects up the chimney.
So, here is our myth. Myth number 5, a wood-burning fireplace is an efficient way to heat your home. Ed LaPointe of Colony Heating and Air Conditioning is with us now. And Ed, it sounds to me like wood-burning fireplaces really are the culprit here.
Yes, they are. They actually tend to be a negative heat value for the home, because as you heat up the chimney to get the air to flow up and out with the smoke, you're actually creating a draft for the air in the room. As the air goes up the chimney, the other air is coming from the room into the fire and right up and out the chimney. Typically what we say if you're standing in front of a wood fireplace is the side facing the fire is going to be warm from the radiant heat, but the back side of you is going to be cold from all the air from the room rushing into the fireplace.
Okay, there may be some viewers out there that really don't want to give up their wood-burning fireplace. What are some maintenance tips or operational hints that you can give them to get the most energy efficiency out of a wood-burning fireplace?
The maintenance-wise, they want to make sure they have the chimney cleaned every year by a certified chimney sweep. Another thing they can do is put on a set of glass doors to slow the airflow down. And when they're not using it, make sure that they've got the damper closed as well as the doors.
All right, now for those viewers who are thinking, maybe I'd like to learn a little bit more about gas. What options can you give us there?
Well, there is a line of fireplaces that are gas fireplaces that are designed to go inside of a wood-burning fireplace, and they are very efficient. And they typically come with a blower and a glass door on them, so it turns your wood-burning fireplace into a positive heat source.
And so you could still keep that cosmetic look if you live in an older home and just find something appropriate, you know, for your area and have the benefits of both.
Oh yes, and plus you have the convenience of turning it on whenever you want to.
Great information. Thanks so much, Ed.
You're welcome.
If you'd like more information about keeping your fireplace energy efficient, go to our website at powerhousetv.com.
Welcome back to PowerHouse. For most Midwest homes, a furnace heats your home through a series of ducts that connect the entire home to the heat source.
But recently, there's been a trend to buy and use space heaters to help warm the rooms of your home instead of using the whole house furnace.
Again, we need to understand a little bit about convection to see how heat helps warm a home.
Now, what we have here is representing cold air and hot air. We've got some frozen blue ice.
And I have red warm or hot water.
And the first thing we're going to do is put some of this cold water in here. And you'll see that the blue or the cold temperature actually sinks to the bottom.
Now we'll add the red warm water.
The cold water is dense, so it stays near the bottom, while the red water rises to the top.
This is why the air in your home basement is usually cooler than the air upstairs.
Now eventually these two liquids will reach the similar temperature and then they'll begin to mix and become a consistent temperature, and that's exactly what happens inside your home.
And now for our final myth. Electric space heaters are efficient because they allow you to contain the heat where it's needed. Joining me is Ed LaPointe from Colony Heating. And Ed, why is this myth wrong?
Well, you're only going to be heating the general area where that space heater is. You might be comfortable there, but as soon as you go to the kitchen for a cool drink, you're going to notice that it's cold there, or if you go to the bathroom, you might need to take a sweater with you.
So again, space heaters going to be spending more energy and more dollars to heat up a little space, is that right?
Oh, exactly, and the rest of your house is going to suffer. All of the components of your home, your sofa, your TV, your bed, they're all going to cool down. And then when you want to bring your house up to a comfortable temperature, you're going to have to use a tremendous amount of energy to bring all of those objects up to the comfortable temperature you want.
So you like to talk about what, a whole house system then, if in terms of heating?
The whole house system is the way to go. Keep everything and all the objects in the home at a nice comfortable temperature so you're not having to use a lot of energy either to heat or to cool your space that you're in.
And again, really making that whole house, all of it energy efficient, insulation through the heating system, right?
And we can also do things, if you have a large home, like zoning. We can zone different areas of your house and put a thermostat in that particular area so that you can warm or cool that particular area of the house while the rest of the house stays at a comfortable temperature also.
So that space heater might give us that instant moment of heat But again, it's not energy efficient, and in the end, it's going to cost us more dollars.
That's correct.
All right, well, I had a lot of great information. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Well, that was fun, wasn't it?
Oh, most definitely.
Let's look back at all the myths we cracked today. Myth number 1, it's a mistake to make your home too tight.
The tighter the home, the more control you can have over heating and cooling. Proper ventilation can still be achieved, and you'll have more energy savings as a result. Myth number 2, insulating the ceiling will just cause more air to leak out through the walls and windows.
Remember, if you didn't heat the ceiling, you'd just be giving the warm air a place to escape your home. It would have to be some pretty high pressure to make this myth true. Myth number 3, replacing old windows with new windows is the best way to save energy.
While replacing old windows with more energy efficient windows is a good idea, if they aren't installed properly or well weatherized with caulk and insulation, then getting a new window might not help at all. Myth number 4, covering old windows with plastic is the only way to stop leaky windows.
There are other ways too. Make sure you've added caulk around your window and make sure the glazing around the glass is not chipping away. Myth number 5, a fireplace is an efficient way to heat your home.
Most wood-burning fireplaces are more about beauty than anything else. They will pull the heat from your home, especially if you leave the flue open when not in use. And myth number 6, electric space heaters are the most efficient way to heat because you can just heat the room you need to warm.
While space heaters convert all of their electrical energy into heat, they will still use a lot more energy to warm a room than a furnace.
So there you have it.
6 energy-saving myths put to rest.
Now you know what is true and what isn't, so you can make sure your house is a powerhouse.
Megan's Wardrobe, provided by Dress Barn.